Talking to Daddy. I woke up the next morning in a good mood. The presentation was over and I had done my part. Everything was as it should be, except my teeth felt fuzzy, like I hadn't brushed them before bed. But I always brushed them before bed, even when then I remembered. I went into the kitchen and made myself a bowl of oatmeal. Daddy was reading the paper. There was an article about an election the weekend before on the front page. Little Rock votes against integration, 19,470 to 7,561. Schools to be closed indefinitely. Daddy slammed down the paper, making me jump. "Sorry," he said, but he scowled as he said it, and I realized then, certain as could be. That's when asked if Negroes and whites should go to the school together. He had voted yes. "Are you ready to go, Marley?" I nodded, even though I'd only had 2 spoonfuls of my oatmeal. It was quiet in the car. Daddy gripped the steering wheel like he was driving in a snowstorm. Not that it snowed much in Little Rock, but I'd seen a movie where there was once. And the actor clutched the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. "Daddy?" I asked. "What?" "Can you find her for me? Maybe get her phone number?" Daddy shook his head. "Marley, you need to leave that girl alone." "But she's my best friend." "She was your friend. Now she's someone else." "No, she wasn't. Liz was funny and outspoken and clever, and I didn't see how all of that had changed just because people were now calling her colored. But Daddy and I usually got along so well. I trusted him." "I don't know," I said finally. "I want to hear her side of the story first." "Marley, you can't still be friends with Liz." "Why not?" "Segregationists don't take kindly to Negroes who try to pass as white. Liz and her family are in real danger. The farther away you stay from them, the better." "You're worried about me?" I asked. "Yes, I am," said Daddy. "Why do you think I drove you to school every day?" I shrugged. Daddy ran a hand through his hair. "Do you remember when I invited that colored minister, Pastor George, to come speak at our church?" I nodded. "The next day, there was a note tucked in with our paper. It said, 'You let your youngest walk to school tomorrow, she won't make it.' And it was signed KKK. The Ku Klux Klan is in Little Rock." Daddy nodded. "Who's in it?" "Hard to tell since it's a secret organization. However, the Capitol Citizens Council, or CCC, is not a secret club. Their avowed purpose is to support segregation in Little Rock. It seems reasonable to assume that some of their members are Klan sympathizers, at the very least." "Do we know any CCC members?" I asked. "Mr. Harrelson from the next door. He was a nice old man who sometimes gave me plenty candy. At least I'd always thought he was nice. And Miss McDaniel, Sally's mother, is a member of the Mothers League." "What's that?" I asked. "A women's group associated with the CCC that formed last year to oppose integration at Central." This was a lot to take in. "Isn't everyone allowed to have their own opinion?" "Of course," said Daddy. "But the reasons there were police all over David's graduation last May was not because people have different opinions. The FBI was there to protect Ernest Green house. They were worried that someone was going to try and kill him." I had never really thought about why we'd gotten so few tickets to David's graduation, that Granny hadn't even been able to go. Apparently, there was a lot I hadn't thought about. "But you still support integration, right?" "I do. said Daddy. And I still talk to Pastor George. He's Betty Jean's husband, you know. I hadn't known. How could I? Why haven't you ever told me any of this? These are issues for grown-ups to deal with, not children. The Little Rock 9 weren't much older than me. Daddy sighed, but he didn't answer. I thought things settled down at Central once they called the soldiers in. Somewhat, said Daddy. At least that was the official story, but things were not ever pleasant for them there. Minnie Jean Brown got expelled. She was the colored girl who dumped a bowl of soup on the boys who were picking on her. That was something Liz would do. If they were still being harassed, why didn't they complain? Daddy shrugged. Maybe they did, and nothing was done. Maybe they thought if they showed any weakness, it would have only gotten worse. In any case, last year, the pictures from Central told the whole world Little Rock is filled with hate, and now the town's gone and voted against opening the schools. We are not just a town of racists, but those of us who believe in integration. He shook his head. We can't seem to find our voice. Daddy was so upset for a minute, I thought he was going to cry. That scared me as bad as anything he said. I knew what it was like to have trouble finding your voice, so I reached over and patted his arm. He didn't look at me. I mean it, Marley. I don't want to scare you too much. I'll keep you safe. But I do want you to be careful, which means you stay away from Liz. I nodded to show him I understood what he was saying, but I didn't promise that I would.